Hello again, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Alpharetta Tech Talk. I'm John Ray, and we are coming to you from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank in finally sunny Alpharetta. It's been raining a lot lately, folks, but we've got a beautiful day today. Today you are connected more than ever, whether it's your friends, your family, or your life. Renaissance understands how you bank, offering the mobile banking services that you need. And they also know that sometimes you need to speak to real people with real answers in real offices that you can actually find and get face-to-face with. And that's why they have more than 190 convenient locations throughout the South ready to serve you. For more information, go to renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now we turn to a guy I've been looking forward to getting on this show, Ben Cagle. Ben is managing partner with Cagle Consulting Partners. Ben, welcome.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. You're as imaginative as naming your firm as I am.
It's all about branding.
If anybody knows my day job, they know what the name of my firm is, but Ben and I need some help on branding, right? But coming up with an imaginative name. But if it is what it is, and that's okay, right?
And there's no place to hide. Your name's on it, right, John?
Yeah, I like it. That's the important thing. They know who the boss is.
That's right.
So you're the boss of Cagle Consulting Partners. So talk about what you do.
Well, we solve three problems for our clients. So the first thing is how do you accelerate revenue growth? Some people think they have a sales problem or a marketing problem, but you have to think about it holistically. So we help them do that.
Okay.
The second problem is how do you solve business problems with technology or professional services? So getting into the innovation around that and thinking about how do you think about your product or service differently to solve that problem. The third thing is because I've got a little gray hair, not quite as much as you, John, but
nobody has as much as I do. But
at least it's still here, right?
Yeah,
so we're not complaining.
That's right.
But with the experience I've had, I've run different size businesses from a global 100 to startups to whatever. So understanding how to scale or build an organization, whether it's a people problem or a technology problem or even processes that need to be. How do you scale your business up to the next level? So revenue, innovation, and scaling or building businesses are the three problems we solve.
Wow. We've only got a 30-minute show here, Ben, so I don't know where we're going to go with this because you've solved a lot of problems.
That's right, and we do it on three levels, and there's actually a method to the madness. It sounds like, and I know you probably coach your clients, hey, you better focus and finish, right?
Yeah, right.
So it is actually a strange focus. I actually deal with at the corporate innovation, so think Global 100 companies.
Okay.
We deal with the innovation groups or their sales organizations, helping them understand business problems. So that's one element of what I do.
So you help the eggheads, and we say that lovingly, right? Because these are very important people,
right?
In terms of monetizing what they do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this morning I was on with a company called SAS Analytics.
Okay.
They are several billion, hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a team with the UK, and they were focused on their pharmaceutical client. How could they solve some of their problems using analytics? So were they helping them lower cost or grow or understand the patient journey better? So
Gotcha.
That was one conversation. So that's kind of the macro, the large enterprise company, the big boy and girl companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The majority of my business is at the mid-level, and that's companies here in the North Georgia, North Atlanta, North Metro area from Midtown up through Alpharetta, anywhere from let's call it $5 million to $150 million.
Mm-hmm.
And those companies are my target. And I think I add the most value because I've been on leadership teams for those types of companies. But, again, whether it's a technology company, software development, outsourcing, I've got augmented reality, virtual reality firms.
Oh, wow.
Internet of Things, anything around new technology that's solving those business problems, how they grow, innovate, or scale their business. That's the majority. And I'm also a coach and actually on the leadership team of some tech startups. So I'm in that tech community as well. So kind of the three levels. But it's amazing. The tech startups want to meet the big boys and girls to sell them something, right?
Of course.
And the mid-level is always looking to sell up more as well, right? So there is a connectivity. The joke is I'm not Catholic, but if you do kind of your Hail Mary, I know this is a visual for a radio show, but you've got to think kind of top down and then think vertical across the technologies there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, I want to dive more into that, some specifics around what you do, but let's get into maybe just a little bit of your background, because you talked a little bit about your Georgia Tech grad. You've got a lot of personality for a Georgia Tech grad. So I want to see your degree.
Yeah, we told you the war story. I started out in engineering, but
Yes.
Fraternity and GPA got in the way, and I ended up being a business major.
I love it.
But the journey started, I'm actually from the Atlanta area, but I've done business on 4 continents and traveled quite a bit.
Wow.
So there's 3 high-level chapters, and I'll try to keep it brief.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
For my friends listening, they're already rolling their eyes here. Yeah. They will ramble. But coming out of Georgia Tech, I went into manufacturing, so did sales, marketing, and actually with McKinsey & Company, we did an industry roll-up strategy. And I've actually run a manufacturing plant, a paper mill before.
Really?
Yeah, and we were actually, and I'm that old, we were selling to newspapers back when they were still a profitable business.
Oh, wow.
But understanding that transformation, understanding the consolidation of newspapers, what was happening with the internet, how they were being disrupted, that really started my journey, and it was a common theme through my career. So I did that for about 13 years or so. And then I was saying, okay, I'm in the wrong industry.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here? And at that time, technology was taking off. Everything from SAP and enterprise to the internet was taking off. So I said, okay, let's go growth oriented. Let's get into technology. So the second chapter of my career, I've been a consulting partner or an industry leader for large, global enterprise consulting companies. Some of your listeners may be familiar with the EDS, which became HP Enterprise, CSC, Computer Sciences Corporation. If you don't know those brands, most people know Accenture or IBM. We competed on that level, and we solved a lot of technology and business problems, again, on 4 continents. So I was working out of New York, Dallas, just going crazy as my wife and I had our 2 daughters. So.
Right. Your office was a plane over Iowa, right? At 40,000 feet. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The Sky Club was my friend. It's sad when back when you still called the hotel operator for a wake up call. I was on a first name basis with a couple in Tampa, New York, and everything else. They said, "Hey Ben, how are you doing?" So when you call them, that shows you're spending way too much time on the road away from your family.
For sure.
So the first chapter, industry; second chapter, consulting. The third chapter is I've actually been on the leadership team of different size companies. So one was a NASDAQ traded data analytics company here in town called PRGX.
Oh, wow.
And that was a turnaround situation. So I ran the U.S., about 100 million revenue, 700 employees, a turnaround. And so as the joke goes, John, you hit every club in the bag on that assignment, right? You had to use every skill from growth to evaluating and taking some unfortunately tough decisions to actually putting a path forward. I've also worked with the former CMO of Coca-Cola. He had a marketing and brand strategy firm. His name was Sergio Zeman. Some of your listeners may know the Zeman Group.
I remember them.
So they needed a business person to come in and actually help them grow their consulting business. So we went from, I think, several million to double the size of the business. And, of course, the joke is Sergio sold the business, and he's flying around on 2 G6 planes. I'm still working.
Yeah, who got the better end of that deal, right?
And I've done some venture capital software things and market research with some entrepreneurs. So literally from the reason I'm targeting, the 3 areas of startups, mid-level, and enterprise is because I've run those size companies. So
that
the
makes
third
sense.
chapter of my career, I've seen it all from bootstrap startup up to NASDAQ traded global 100 enterprises. So that there is a method to the madness that weaves through my career history here.
That's great stuff. Folks, if you just joined us, we are speaking with Ben Cagle, and Ben is the managing partner of Cagle Consulting Partners. So, Ben, one of the things that we were talking about before we came on is your work around disruption.
Yes.
And that was fascinating. So let's get that out there.
Every industry is being disrupted right now, right? If you think about Amazon, everybody goes, well, yeah, you can get it the next day. No, Amazon is forcing everyone to compete with them, saying, I can get you anything as a consumer. If you want it within 30 minutes, it's not Domino's, it's Amazon. Any product from a can of deodorant to a can of tennis balls, you can get it in 30 minutes. So think about how that's impacting Home Depot, Target, with not just their pickup, but also they're turning their big box stores into warehouses. Obviously, before the interview, we were talking about connected and autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Think about the level of connectivity and the level of autonomy, being able to have that driver. So I was on a panel with Daimler, which is Mercedes-Benz, General Motors, and Ford. Those typically people don't play nice together. But they were thinking about, with autonomous vehicles, will you take a pod to work? That's a workout pod. You get there, you work, and then you come back in a relaxation or a home office type pod. So think about turning your vehicle, instead of driving it, into an experience around that. So that was one level of disruption in automotive.
Wow.
You think about obviously what's happening in media and whatnot. We've touched on some of that earlier in my career. So every industry that I'm dealing with, even pharmaceuticals, I was on a call today. I mentioned that in Europe. Pharmaceuticals is being disrupted by 23andMe, the genetics testing, because that's a new data source.
Yes.
So think about how long it takes to develop a drug, anywhere from 3, 5, 10 years to go through the 4 phases of drug development. By using 23andMe, pharmaceutical companies are actually targeting more specifically patient populations that help them get more, niche, or if you're from the UK, niche drugs to the right population, right? So that's disrupting as well. So every industry that I'm involved with and touching on the macro scale, that's happening. Across the board. And that, of course, creates opportunities for mid-sized companies and startups to think, how can we create value and solve some of today's problems, but also the problems that are going to be created in the future?
Well, in disruption, innovation is a two-edged sword.
Oh, yeah.
You can wield it to your effect, or it can be plunged into you, right? Not to be too graphic, but I mean, the point of it is that you help companies, it sounds like, on both fronts.
Absolutely. You have to, let's be honest, unless you're Amazon, you have to eventually make money, right?
That's right. Yeah. Somehow they've escaped that rule. But anyway.
Well, they're turning a heck of a profit now, but they weren't profitable for 18 years?
Oh, yeah. Almost seemingly forever. But
getting that venture capital money and consuming
that's right.
But so it's a balance, right? So bringing in, the techies that are enamored with their technology, they want to solve a problem, but solving a real world problem that someone will pay for, that's where I intersect. So an example of that would be, there's a virtual reality agency here in Atlanta. Actually, there's several, but they're one of my clients.
Oh, wow.
And they actually built the application for a smartphone remember the orange vanilla Coke that was just announced?
Yes.
A few months ago?
Yes.
They developed an app where you could hold up your smartphone and it looked like a little unicorn that had the logos on it was dancing on your desktop. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So they did that, but it's like, okay, with that same virtual reality firm that designed that, let's have a business application that can actually solve a problem people care about versus the cool gee whiz, spinning unicorn type thing.
Right.
So I worked with an innovation group down at Georgia Tech, one of the large HVAC, the heating and air conditioning companies that actually have tech reps out servicing their products, right? Third party tech reps doing that. So we developed an app with the virtual reality firm to hold up your smartphone if you're the tech rep coming out that actually identifies the type of unit. So if you go into your home, your heating's down now, since we had a cold day here in Alpharetta. If your heating's down, the technician can hold up the phone, identify the unit, what it is, and actually diagnose what's wrong with it. And if they don't know, because some of the Gen Zs and millennials don't have the experience, right? You can actually live link to an experienced rep that's, virtually to help them diagnose and solve your HVAC problem. So that's an example of how you take a really cool virtual reality type application and apply it to real world and actually make money. So that's what we're about, is accelerating that revenue growth.
So for that, I mean, let's talk about, just as an example, we're not going to mention any names, but that HVAC, unless you'd like, but the HVAC company, what you're doing is giving them, I mean, I'm assuming that's a mid-sized kind of enterprise. You're giving them some technology that really gives them a leg up on their other competitors, right?
Exactly. Well, actually, there's several $billion-dollar company. You're working with innovation.
Gotcha.
But you're going where I wanted to take you anyway. So thanks for going there.
Right.
Is that mid-level HVAC companies that may have, let's say, 100 trucks out here, and there's several here in Atlanta that are consolidating, right?
Yes.
They can actually use that technology to cut cost, attract new talent, right? Shorten the training time, because you can get people out there calling on customers, and they don't, they need to be competent enough, obviously, but you don't have to be an expert, because now you have support. And you can attract millennials and Gen Zs into the workforce. So that mid-level is actually benefiting from a large, big boy and girl company, the Global 100s.
Right.
So that's an example of how we kind of took it up market and then brought it down to the services. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, but you're focused. A lot of your practice is, I mean, you certainly work with the larger companies, the enterprise organizations, and startups. We'll talk more about startups in a second.
Sure.
But that mid-level is really your bread and butter for your firm.
Yeah, it sure is. Again, that, technology companies, whether it's data outsourcers, data centers, software development. I mentioned AR, VR, software development firms, consulting firms, any kind of advisory or professional services. So if you're in the services industry, can help you out there in terms of growing or innovating, or if you're in any kind of technology or enable technology. Those are typically my clients. And that's, from a percentage standpoint, that's probably 70% of what I do is work with, coach, and actually implement plans with those leadership teams of those mid-size, again, professional services, consulting, or technology-related companies.
I know services is a big topic.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're able to generalize a bit, talk about what some of the big issues are around innovation for services companies.
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 trends. Let's talk about a couple. Okay. One would be the world has changed, right? If they've been in business more than 5 years, they're either getting competition for offshore or they are an offshore firm, and their customers' needs have changed with technology. Or in many cases, services are being displaced with technology. So helping them understand how their customers' world is changing, that transformation, and how you used to create value by providing this service, but you better add to your services and go up market. So there's several companies here in the Alpharetta area that do software development, but they're saying, you know what, we need to be not just developers of anything, we can just code, we need to be experts in Internet of Things or data analytics. So they need to have kind of a major and a minor, as I call it, right? You've got to have a focus, but also not just having a data analytics. Oh, we do data analytics. Well, what does that mean? No one really knows, right? But we do data analytics to help you understand your customer better. We do data analytics. We build applications to help you take cost out of your business. And those are my favorite things to do. If we have time, one of my favorite stories is that I work with a local software developer. He used to be in corporate. He probably has 20 employees, really some nice clients, some of the mid-sized companies we're talking about. But he's a former engineer. So you joked about tech, but I think he went to Houston, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But he was solving a problem. His customer was actually a trash compactor recycling company.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So these are former executives from Waste Management, took their package, went and started a business and started buying up all these mom and pop cardboard crushers in the back of these office buildings.
Wow.
So they created that business. So my client, the software developer, I was talking to him one day. He was telling me a story. He goes, I go, well, just tell me an example, just like we're doing now. He goes, I put a Raspberry Pi unit on these compactors. And I said, Raspberry Pi,
right.
For those like me, the great unwashed that don't care about the technology.
Yeah, you're the great unwashed. I'm the great unwashed. What is that?
A Raspberry Pi is just a little physical unit that goes on these trash compactors.
Yes.
And I said, well, what were you doing? He goes, well, I was measuring the plunger pressure and temperature. I said, okay. I'm like you, get that puzzle.
Wow. Yeah.
Deer in the headlights. Like, okay. I go, then what'd you do? He goes, well, these little connectors, these Raspberry Pis, I use Verizon Skylink to connect them. And so now there's, 100 of those out across the country. They're now connected. So he knows what's going on in those compactors. I go, really? Where'd you take it then? He goes, well, then I built a software application that actually analyzes when those compactors are going to be filled. So he can actually predict that. And then he integrated into the scheduling so he can actually send a truck when the compactor is going to be filled. And you think, well, that's a lot of work for trash compactors or, all those Amazon boxes being, crushed behind the office building.
Sure.
But what he was solving for, I talked to the owners, the former waste management executives that own the company. I said, this has to be a great marketing ploy if you've got the latest technology. He goes, well, Ben, you're right. It helps us in marketing, but it lowered our cost of our pickup and drivers and costs by 30%.
Dramatically.
And so going back to my client, the software developer, I go, you have one of the few working IoT, Internet of Things applications out there. And the guy looked at me and goes, what is IoT? He didn't even know what I was talking about because the analysts talk about the trends. He was just solving a business problem that had huge value. So that's one of my favorite stories about.
I love that.
Yeah. You put the different technology pieces together. In that case, the sensor, the Raspberry Pi unit,
Mm-hmm.
the connectivity, Verizon, the data analytics to predict when things were going to clear up or be, need to be picked up. And then hey, let's get into the scheduling and get that driver out there on Thursday versus Friday because it's going to fill up quickly. And your property management client will, get irritated if the box or the compactor is overflowing.
Sure.
But that goes from really high tech to, everyday life, right?
Right.
Recycling Amazon boxes.
Yeah. So I'm curious about how a mid-sized company like this knows how they need you and what you do.
Yeah.
What are some of the signs in their business that they need to pick up the phone and call Ben?
Well, I want to enter a new market. So I get that. Two of my clients came from Europe. They're software companies or software development companies. I want to enter the U.S. market. Go.
Right.
How do you do that? How do you think about it? So that's one thing, entering new markets. For mid-sized companies based here in the North Atlanta area, a lot of their problems are, do I need to hire a new sales rep? Or our revenues are flat or declining? Or we have new competitors coming in. This is truly a global marketplace now. We have new competitors. We don't know how to differentiate. We don't know how to compete. We're getting price pressure. John, some of the stuff you deal with, right?
Yeah, sure.
So how do you actually counter slowing revenue? How do you counter price pressure, price declines? How do you decide if you need to open up a new channel and partnerships to sell in a distribution channel or a business development channel? Or do I need to hire, 5 more sales reps to hit this revenue target? All of those are very complex, interdependent problems. And again, you can't think about it just on a marketing standpoint or a business development or a lead gen or a sales standpoint. You need to think holistically, but also you need to make sure you've got the right, and I've, me, I'm a former consultant.
Yes.
I've got a framework I've used in all those companies in my past around making sure you've got the right target, the right market positioning, branding, and the right solution. And the solution, as you know, is not what you do.
Yes.
And hopefully I started the conversation with the problems I saw for my clients. That positioning, that solution is around what problems do you solve?
Right.
So if we can flip that equation for small and mid-sized companies around the problems you solve, always market the problem, right?
That's right.
And then orient around that and how you go to market, how you sell, how you talk about your partnerships, and how you deliver value. Being very conscious and intentional around that, that's what I help leadership teams do.
And then taking it one step further, it sounds like, given what you're doing around disruption innovation, it's helping your clients anticipate what their customers' problems will be.
Well, if the world's changed, their customers or their markets,
right,
they're getting price pressure. You can't do the same game and try to do it better, right? You have to think of a new game.
Right.
It doesn't mean you change businesses. It may be, in most cases, I help people think differently about their business and really focus on that customer and what's changing in the market. And make sure your messaging is tight on it, make sure your solutions are tight, and make sure, again, you're solving a problem we're solving versus you've got some cool gee whiz technology that you hope somebody will buy, right?
Right.
The old, from build it and they will come. We all know that doesn't work, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Sounds like we need a therapy session after this one, John.
Yeah, I know.
You got some war stories there too.
Yeah. I've got a few about that. We all have a few about that.
Yeah.
But I want to get to before we wrap it up. I want to make sure we get into what your work with startups, because you're doing a lot of what you might call for-profit work, but you're also giving back to the startup community in some very tangible ways.
Well, let's be transparent. It's a little bit of a give back and a take. All right.
Well, of course, but you've got to have a little inflow to be able to give, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So some of your listeners may or may not know that here in Atlanta, there's 35 accelerators or incubators for technology startups.
Okay, let's just stop right there.
Okay.
I'm floored by that number.
Yeah.
So what was that number, let's say 10 years ago?
10 years ago, it was maybe 10 or 15.
That's amazing.
As they say, the granddaddy of all accelerators in Atlanta is the ATDC, the Advanced Technology Development Center down at Georgia Tech.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time in Midtown mentoring and or working with leadership teams on how to grow their business and solve those problems. But that were the first ones. But now there's an accelerator that actually, like here in Tech Alpharetta, Karen Cashin's done a great job building that community.
Right. There's
55 startups right here in Alpharetta.
Right.
Behind the fire station is
right around the corner from here.
Right around the corner.
Yep.
And there's 55 startups. I mentor some of those. I'm a sponsor there. I'm involved with that community. And I also am on leadership teams of, well, let's call it 2 of those. So one would be cybersecurity for connected fleet vehicles. That's a start. Yes, there is such a thing.
And it makes sense. We won't get into it all, but it makes sense.
And so sometimes most of the time I work for a retainer fee, working with the executive teams. But sometimes, as they say, I take sweat equity. So I'll take a position in the company as well, betting on taking the risk that they'll be successful and eventually get to market.
Wow. So, talk about the startup environment. I mean, and what you see in technology in Atlanta. I mean, obviously the Chamber of Commerce and all our business associations and the folks that market Atlanta, market Alpharetta specifically, talk about a lot of what's going on around here in very glowing terms.
Right.
But you're right in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
So give folks an overview, and particularly maybe that aren't here all the time like we are.
Right.
We're like fish in the water. We don't even know we're in the water, right? But give us a sense of what that looks like from your perspective and the activity and where that's going.
Yeah, there's an entire ecosystem being developed here. So if you start with the 35 accelerators and incubators, so here we mentioned Tech Alpharetta. Up in the Forsyth County area, there's Digital Ignition. They're focused on blockchain technologies. To the east of us is over in Gwinnett. They're focused on autonomous vehicles only. So what's happening is you're going from more generalist startups and startup incubators and accelerators to more targeted. So that's happening. And in every community, it's almost becoming like every community has to have a library. You have to have an art museum. You almost have to have now to compete in this high tech world we're in. You have to have an accelerator and incubator in your community now. So that's kind of a trend we're seeing. But also because Alpharetta has become so global, I mean, we've all the multinationals. It's been really fun to create those new relationships with people moving into the area that are either developing their technology here using, U.S. based resources or leveraging those across the world as well. So that's kind of so you have startups and accelerators, but also that ecosystem consists of investors. Right. So venture capital, private equity, we're involved with those. It consists of the academics. So everything from Georgia Tech we know about, they were well known, but Emory, Georgia State, all of those professors and schools are getting aligned with solving those business problems with technology.
Right.
You also have Gwinnett Tech here.
Right.
So we're involved. I know you're involved with the North Fulton Chamber as well.
Yep.
I'm involved with the Tech 400 group there. We're actually thinking, are there non-traditional paths for students to get, a 2-year vocational degree at Gwinnett Tech here, which of course is across from Avalon.
Right.
And get them enough experience in systems administration or, software development, get them experienced, get their, establish a net worth, quite frankly, and get these students on a different path. And then they go to university or out in the market or just keep learning and keep developing in their area of expertise. So we mentioned kind of the startups and incubators. We talked about investors. Academia is getting involved in non-traditional and non-traditional. Governments are getting involved, government officials. The lieutenant governor is very focused on making Atlanta the East Coast hub of technology. So, watch out, New York and Boston. I don't think we'll ever get rid of the Valley out west, but so there's a lot of things going on there, and it's fun to be part of that, of connecting the different groups, the different stakeholders, how we create economic development for our communities, how we create value for our citizens, how we help disadvantaged or underprivileged minorities. I mean, there's a lot of good themes that go through this. In addition to everyone looking to grow their business, if you're a software company, cash out at 17 times your revenue, right, and then go do your next thing, right?
I know this is a loaded question, not loaded, but involved answer to a simple question. But you work with a lot of startups. What's some of the advice that you give your startups, or maybe some of the mistakes that you see them making that they really need to pay attention to?
Yeah, I call them. Pardon me, still getting over a cold here, but I call them Cagleisms. So one of those would be, don't fall in love with your technology.
Okay.
Second thing is always,
that's hard, right?
Oh, it's so hard because again, are you taking an inside out perspective or an outside in?
Right.
Second thing on the outside in is, of course, always focus on the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Third thing is, hey, solve a problem worth solving. It can solve this problem, but it may be number 20 on the priority of your buyer. Mm-hmm. So make sure it's a very high priority problem that has, and the fourth
urgency.
thing is urgency, and to make sure it has value. So again, you can articulate the value of what you're delivering. If you charge them, X 100,000 for the software as a service license, or in many cases $3,000 a month for that software as a service license, how do we make sure we're getting 10x that in terms of productivity or cost reduction or revenue growth? So, just having the adult conversation around business and teaching techies to do that. Not say techies with great affection, but teaching them to do that. That's a lot of what I do with my coaching. And I've been a fractional COO, a fractional CMO, sales officer. I'm even right now for a local Alpharetta firm. I'm the fractional chief technology officer, helping them redefine their next generation software.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Lots of wisdom there, folks. I think you saved folks millions of dollars in just a few moments, and they didn't pay a dime for it.
Well, you sound like my wife.
Or mine.
She goes, if you're so smart,
if
you're so smart, monetize this. And this is a lesson. We're all learning. We're on a journey, right?
Yeah.
So how we monetize that and then quantify the value. But what's amazing is in most cases, there's some exceptions. I don't deal with a contract. I bill month to month a retainer. And if I'm not creating value, I don't want them to pay me. And that creates the kind of trust and relationship. And I know that's probably aligned with your values as well, John, right?
Right.
And that's the kind of relationship I want to have. I've traveled, like I said, on 4 continents. I've run organizations in different cities. I've kept the family here in Alpharetta. Thank you, Delta Airlines, for getting me to work. But now the focus of Cagle Consulting Partners is the world is here. Let's bring my hopefully global experience, my business experience here to Alpharetta. But let's create a community of not just business, but social, technology, and let's help everyone out. Let's get that network going. And that's part of our vision.
Wow, that's awesome. You blew my gray hair back, Ben.
Well, I see you're slicking it back now. Hey, if you want to spike your gray hair, we'll take you down to Midtown at some of those startups and an old beat up T-shirt and some shorts and flip flops, and you'll fit right in, John.
Yeah. I'll get back to you on that.
I didn't think that's on your brand. It's not exactly on brand for you, is it?
No, I don't think so. But no, this has been great. Would love to keep going, but let's get to how folks can get in touch with you if you've mentioned something that really resonates. How do folks contact you?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. If you go to www.caglepartners, CAGLE partners.com, you will see a shark swimming around. So it starts with that, but you'll see eventually contact us. You'll have my email address. And of course, I believe my mobile number's on there as well. So caglepartners.com.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to check Ben out on LinkedIn, he's there as well. But Ben, this is awesome. Thanks for being with us.
I can't thank you enough for having me in. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this has been fun. Folks, just a quick reminder and pointer. If you've got some headaches that involve administrative tasks or bookkeeping, marketing, maybe you need a presentation prepared, go engage a smart and reliable office angel. They're not a temp agency or a placement firm. Office Angels matches your business support needs with angels. Yes, angels who have the talent and experience necessary to help you maintain and grow your business on an ongoing or as needed basis. Your terms, your timeline. They lend a hand when needed and fly off when the job is done. Find out more at officeangels.us or call Chief Executive Angel S.E. Escobedo, she's the best, 770-442-9246. And I know what I speak of personally, so check out Essie when you can. Folks, just a reminder that you can listen to this show every Thursday live at 11:30, or we have special shows throughout the week, depending on scheduling when we can get great guests like Ben. But if you miss any of our live shows, we're on all the major podcast platforms. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Overcast, on and on and on and on. We're on all the major ones. We're also on, you can find all our shows on North Fulton Business RadioX.com or AlpharettaTechTalk.com. Check us out. We've got a great archive of leaders, tech leaders at AlpharettaTechTalk.com. So check us out there. So for my guest, Ben Cagle, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on Alpharetta Tech Talk.